To start, welcome to... Okay. We understand. Welcome to the session 8.2. We talk about creative tourism, research, reflections, and contributions. We have 3 papers to present. Right now, we are ready to start, and we will start with the first paper, the contribution of creative tourism to the preservation of Gandaresh identity, culture, and heritage, by our colleague Dina Ramos. Do you know the rules? We have 1 hour and 30, so you have at least 20 minutes in maximum to the presentation, to have more 10 minutes to the discussion. Please, feel free.
Hello, good afternoon. Our research is about the contribution of creative tourism to the preservation of Gandare's identity, culture, and heritage. Gandare is region in central region in Portugal. I don't know, in Portugal continental, not island, not island. Okay. The aim of this study is understand how the elements that characterize the identity of this region can contribute with ethnography, economy, gastronomy to creative tourism. This is part of a project, Gandara Tour Sensations. It's a project financed for tourism, Portugal tourism. How can creative tourism promote the preservation of our identity, our culture, and heritage? About creative tourism, local communities, public entities, and associations, and the importance of preserving material and immaterial assets. The aims of the project is about 3 municipalities, Vagos, Mira, and Cantanhede, and University of Aveiro is the coordinator of the project. The aim of the project is deepen knowledge about the Gandara culture and promote the respective dissemination, is integrated in a tourism support instruments, and identify and catalog the existing offer of Gandare's houses. When the project begins, no one knows how many houses we have, and now in the finish, it will finish now in December, we have 3,050 houses. It's a lot. In the beginning of the project, we think more or less 400, something like that. This project have like results, know about the Gandare's culture, about how can we use it in tourism and contribute to have experiences, and how can we pass to our children, to the people who live there, the traditions, the culture, and everything we have in the region. This is the central region of Portugal, and the 3 municipalities, Vagos, Mira, and Cantanhede, but we have more municipalities. There are Gandare's houses. The delimitation is not so easy, because people who live in other municipalities think they are in Gandare's region too, and this is about one of the problems we have in the research is to have the Gandare's territory delimited. The use of heritage for qualification of the territory is a very important step, and the symbol of this historical and culture of the land is an opportunity to tourism in that areas. The literature review identified 7 steps in the project: the region, the ethnography, the gastronomy, the tourism, the population, economy, and architecture. About it, we are doing some literature review, and about the identity and the modus vivendi of the population of these areas. About ethnography, we have typical attires, Gandarese attire. We have some dialects and some speech, for example. About economy, the main economy usually are fishing and agriculture. Now it is an industry and services. About gastronomy, we have lots of favas à gandaresa, batatas assadas na areia. This is Portuguese. Sardinha na telha, this is Portuguese and identity gastronomy for the territory. About architecture, we have the Gandarese house, as I tell you before. This is the type of Gandarese house. It was with adobe, it's a material, how can I say adobe? Adobe, I think, is limb. Is for the territory, it's original for the territory, they use for constructed, and we have the Aztecs too. About creative tourism, the importance of the tourism is to revitalize this territory and namely the identify and Gandarese culture. We do some literature review about creative tourism too, and how it can revitalize our regions, our rural areas, and preserve the memory and territory identify. The precision of the local communities of tourism, the entities cooperate with local communities, and the tourism will improve it, will improve the communities and the value, the heritage, this external appreciation. The methodology we use, before the first step was to do scientific research about the scientific research about the region, about everything in the region. After that, we applicate some interviews in the local entities and local community in the territories, Vagos, Mira, and Cantanhede. Some findings we have in the project. The importance of Gandara Tour Sensations project to improve this type of creative tourism, the preservation of the Gandarese identity, culture, and heritage, the importance of raising awareness among local communities, the need for joint work between public and private entities and associations, and the economic and social valorization. In conclusions, this study has shown that the elements that characterize identify the Gandarese region, the population, the ethnography, economy, gastronomy, and architecture can promote tourism in the territory and, in particular, creative tourism. There is a consideration on the part of local government entities and the community for the preservations of this identity and its associations with tourism. It's necessary that there is a complementary of tourism offer in order to have an integrated tourist product with an architecture experiences. Communication and cooperation and innovation are the conclusions about the project and necessary to improve the creative tourism in this area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. We are on time, so you have any questions to our colleague Dina? Feel free.
Yes.
Okay.
The first. Okay. Hello. Thanks a lot for your presentation. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Without this bad.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for presentation for this very interesting projects. Just interviewing the population, the locals, it's very important. My question is, when you try to modify and try to move people, hosting people to the creative tourism. Yes. Okay, I have the voice now. Sorry, my question will be, when you work on a creative tourism, just change and just to be more attractive, no, for temporary residents, people, I call, don't you modify the tradition? Don't you, in which way you keep the tradition and which way you move forward? Because, sometimes, though, the locals, from my research experience, they need to be more creative. They don't want to offer local things to them. They would like to experiment external things. So the tourists or the travelers, they would like to know the local things that should be different. So how you can manage, if you have an idea or someone told you about how to modify but, increase but not so far from traditional aspects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice question, even without coffee.
Yeah. Okay, one of the problems we find is people don't like to talk sometimes about some themes, okay? Because some themes are very, people have a hard life about it, and some people don't like to talk about it. This is one of the problems. Another one we have is to create products about with the things they have. They have things, and how can we create products to tourism to improve it? This is another problem. For example, in my little, I live in this territory, okay? In my little town where I live, we have one of the traditions is breu. I don't know if anyone knows what is it. It's pêche. In Spain, they smell it pêche. And no one wants to talk about it because they have hard life. His parents have hard lives to do it. And people don't want to talk about it, don't want to explain how can we use it. No one's. Now we can combine and talk with the sons and daughters and ask them to explain us, and with time we can do it. I think the most important is we go there, we talk with people, we try to involve them in the project, and this is the main is talk with people and involve it. I don't know if I answer you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Another question? Please.
Like any label for the products that's from that region, region that people can probably if you have like a label with a brands from that region, would be more easy to, for example, sell the products from that region.
Okay, this project, one of the parts of this project is create a brand for the Gandaratur Sensations. We are doing this now. This is, we have a meeting 15 days ago to create the branding. We'll create the marketing and everything to put the project in official sites.
Okay.
This is one of the parts.
It's because I'm working with Azores UNESCO Global Geopark, and we have some companies that we can. They are our partners, okay, and we not invented, but we created the geo products. So they also have their products, but they have our brand, our label. So, and that's, I think that helps a lot to sell the products from that region and to help people doing some money for that places and attracts people for the places that you sell the real products from that region. I think so.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you.
One more question? Please?
I would like to make on a little note. I think the articles, the scientific papers like yours, also rescue and reveal memories. For me, there were two with connections to Brazil. Which I will share with you. The first one that remind me of the surname Gandara, surname of a deceased, the professor with José Manuel Gomes Gonçalves Gandara, professor of tourism in Brazil, but he is died last years, who trained several students and the policymakers. Maybe Gandara is from this territory, maybe. Yeah. And the ancestrality is a I think important thing. And in Brazil there are tainha is a kind of fish, a south from Brazil, that has a festival in Florianópolis city in the Santa Catarina state, south of Brazil, every year in June, and the tainha served on the tile too, and then not sardinha, but maybe the Portuguese colonization in South Brazil from maybe Açorians influenced that. That's sure. This connection is very good to make to think about the networks and to make a lot of things about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you have any numbers about the new job creations, and this is just a case study, or you have a main contribution to the literature with this great study?
This project begins before pandemic. And we need to extend it. It will finish in December this year. And now this project is research and know how many houses we have and know what is Gandara culture. We don't know nothing about it. We don't know how many books we have. Now we know we have theses, we have dissertations, we have books, more than 100. And now we have all the compilation, we have everything. This is the base for a new project we will begin in the beginning of the year. And in this project, we want to have some money to give people to preserve the houses, because some houses are going out and don't have nothing to do. We can do nothing about it. And we think in the beginning of the year, with the other project, we can do new local people can do some industries, some, imagine, alojamento local, for example, restaurants, everything in these houses, and create new jobs. And this is the aims of the project. We want this.
And the diversification of the country is a big issue in this kind of projects, or not?
The
diversification.
I think. I think this is not a big problem because we are near the sea.
Okay.
We are 15 kilometers of the sea.
15.
15.
Okay.
15.
15.
15. Oh, it's so near. And in the sea near this, we don't have hotels and nothing, because it's a rural area. We have sea, but it's a rural area, sea in rural area. And because this is an opportunity for these houses to have people being there and be in the sea, in the beach in the same time. Yeah, it's a big opportunity for the territory.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, sorry.
Looking for the future, how you see promoting this very specific region and very small area geographically, inserted into the, well, an axis between Coimbra, Aveiro, that part of the whole Costa de Prata region. You see it as a standalone thing because of its specificity, or included as part of some routes, because close by you have the route of Espumante.
Bairrada.
Bairrada, yes, all the wines and all the food already existing, and you see it as a complementary part. And on another hand, you see it as a some way of creating an added value for the pressure of the preservation of this. Probably, if not the most sensible, but one of the most sensible parts of the mainland coastal line.
For example, the municipality of Cantanhede, it's including Bairrada region, okay? Part of the municipality is Gândara and part of the municipality is Bairrada. I think for this type of projects and for every project, it's very important to be in groups, be in networks, create some networks with the other projects is important. And in this project, I think it's very important we integrate the other things together, not just as work with the others. I think it's important for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. You are in the schedule, so move on to the second paper about inclusive development and searching the identity based on the implementation of the Polish part of the projects. Tell me a good food story. Very good name. Okay, we have the presenter, Katarzyna. Okay.
Katarzyna.
Sorry about my bad
No
spelling.
problem. It's okay.
You have 20 minutes.
I will try. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Two more things. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And here, yes. Let's start is here. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's a very long title. I'm sorry. Tell me a good food story. That was the project which was financed by Erasmus program. And I suppose, as we know, the Erasmus, it is not a scientific exactly. It is for working on different things. So we tried also work on how to tell a good food story. On the right side, you've got partners of this project. There are two Swedish universities, I can say, but Krinowa Incubator is a part of the university also. The Jagiellonian University, which I represent, one university from Germany and one from the United Kingdom. It was a very difficult time because we started in 2019 at the end of the year, and we know that in 2020 there was a lockdown, and we had a very big problem how to do this project. So we decided to do it by online, using online materials, using online methods, everything what we can try to do by this way. Unfortunately, we can't meet. So that was the biggest problem and the biggest challenge for us. And we decided to work separately in each team and do online workshop for the whole team. I would like to share you with our Jagiellonian University experience, because we did the last workshop in 2021. Still, it was the online workshop, but it was the moment when we can try to work with the community, not only online. So it was a very good situation for us. The main goals for the whole Erasmus project are in the slide in this moment. So, for example, first of all, it was to introducing the transnational partnership for partners to exchange the knowledge, exchange the experience, to show what are we doing in different places and how are we doing that. Sharing good practices, especially in how to tell these stories, but also identifying creative, innovating ways to understand and stimulate entrepreneurship. In this project, there were different faculties at the universities. I represent the management faculty. I work in the Institute of Culture, so our point of view is a culture management. Krinowa Incubator is more connected with the food, as the same is the Manchester and Germany. There is also technical things, not only agriculture, but it was a good combine for these workshops. Our workshop in the December of 2021 was organized by our team, and our team, we cooperated in this workshop with our stakeholders. We invited all people who all people from different communities, but finally they didn't join. So we had 2 days with different groups of people. But our aim were especially the inclusive development for these people, the cooperation between science and community. We'd like to discuss how we can do that, building local identity and focus on culture, tourism, and local prosperity. The first workshop was about vineyard. I will show in a minute the Jagiellonian University vineyard. But to introduce you, we are not maybe one wine country like Portugal, for example. I think that almost 400 vineyards, it is not a very big number if we are compare it with Portugal, for example. But in the Polish scale, it's a lot, really a lot. And they are growing. Year after year, they are growing. It depends on the climate change, for the one reason. And the second reason is because something has changed in the wine producing last years, and our vineyards started mostly at the beginning of thousands, and they tried to produce the European wines like Cabernet, Merlot, etc. It was not working. It is also the example of the university vineyards. But after that, winemakers tried to produce wine making by the hybrid grapes, and it is working. So it is completely different possibilities, completely different possibilities which we have now. On the left, I tried to show you the oldest, newest vineyard in Poland. It is in the Benedictine Abbey in Tyniec. It is a part of Krakow now. Oldest, newest, because the abbey is from the 10th century, and we know that they made wines in these times till the 19th century. After that, they stopped. We don't know why. There is no historical papers which show us why that was happened. But in the October, they plant new grapes in this the same place. Then we will see in some years what they will produce. On the right side, you've got the pictures from the university vineyard. I will show you the movie in the moment, but just in this moment, I would like to show you a little bit more about the wine trial. It's about 50 vineyards in the Malopolska region. Each region in Poland are also their own trials. Trials are very important because it is possible to visit vineyard, to try the wine, and there is also a possibility to promotion for the local food and local culture and other things. So I think we know everyone what does it mean, so I will not talk about it more. The university vineyard, it is called Nad Dworskim Potokiem. If someone try to read it in Polish, so you can try. It was founded in 2008 as a project of former university rector. Vineyard is officially known as the Agricultural Experimental Station of the Jagiellonian University, located about 15 kilometers from Krakow. It is 3.3 hectares. This film is made for our workshop. It is a very short version because the longer is about 10 minutes. So I decided to just show the very short version. And we decided to choose this vineyard because this is the university vineyard. And we wanted to show how the science collaborate with wine producers and how we exchange the knowledge and how we work together. I'm sorry, I wanted to show the next slide. Okay. In the workshop, this online workshop, we had a meeting for the international partners, online meeting, but also on this meeting there were the representatives of the vineyard. There was also the head of postgraduate studies at the Jagiellonian University, enology studies, and local winemakers. The workshop was also a result of our team work, like preparing these movies, visiting in the vineyard, learning something about how we're producing, etc., etc. These activities which I tried to show you, there, especially because of the online possibilities, that was also that were something what we prepared, and the discussion. Of course, it was recorded, and representatives of winemakers and vineyard get the transcription of this, and we are trying to do something more with that. The discussion, of course, was moderated, and we discussed about the wine production, especially in the context of the chemistry, technology, discuss about health promoting properties of grape wine, wine therapy, also heritage and cultural aspects associated with the wine production, about sustainable enological tourism, which is very, very popular in Poland I don't know, maybe I think maybe 8 years, because we've got a pandemic time, so it was stopped then, and development of the wine trials. So that was the one of this workshop. The second one was about the Izera Food Cooperative. Izera Food Cooperative, Izera Mountains are on the German border, south of the Poland. And we decided to choose something different because one of my colleagues from our team worked there, and they, from this cooperative, they asked us for the help. So we decided that it's a good idea to try to work with them during the international workshop. And they were also participated in this workshop. The cooperatives in Poland, there are about 50 food cooperatives. Maybe not many, but most of them are rather connected with the food selling. Food from the farmers, directly buying from the farmers. Some of them only are trying to do something more than selling. And this is one of these cooperatives. They try to do these things which are on the right side, means try to direct cooperate between them, producers and consumers. Collective decision-making, work division, non-defined structure, strong social bonds like a self-help network, and infrastructure-based. During the workshop, as the previous time, we had the international team and the representatives from the Izera cooperative. And we had some aims during this workshop. We tried to create the idea of the strategy for them. And the strategy was called as a sustainable development, the exchanging knowledge and experience, using social media for storytelling about food production, health, ecology, and regional heritage and culture. Yeah, 3 slides. I would like to show you some prints from these networks, because we tried to discuss during this workshop using the design thinking method how to plan the strategy, what they can do and how they can do. So at the beginning, the team was working about the nutrition generally, because at the beginning, of course, it was a presentation about the cooperative, about the traditions, etc., etc. So it is just to show you what we produced in this workshop. So the huge discussion in the smaller groups, and the one of this discussion, it was about this part. And the second thing was two persons in the design thinking method. One was the farmer, and we tried to discuss about his needs and how to help him to make more visible his work, etc. So the same was for the second. It was a consumer person, and we also tried to discuss and create something. It is not this moment to discussing about more, because I have not enough time, but just to show you that except of the problems, pandemic problems, we tried to cooperate and do something on the basic, not to promoting. It is, of course, it is a part of that, but it was the working with the community, the people who needed help, and we tried to cooperate between science and community, because the cooperative is rather community, it is not the organization. That is not very formal. Vineyard is a little bit different because there is a part of the university, so it is a part of an organization. But the Izera cooperative is the group of people who tried to do something together. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very nice question.
Thank you.
Okay, questions, please.
No questions. Okay, thank you.
So let me see if I understood. You were just gathering information and trying to see what comes out of the community, and then you will think about any possibility in terms of creating products and having an offer for people wanting to enjoy those. So having identified it, but not worrying anything about the offer. Was it? Did I get it right? Or had you a part? Because that's really my question. In case I've missed it,
okay.
And if there was already some output in terms of the products that could be created in terms of offer for people visiting.
There was also discuss about the offer, but the main point was to build their identity. The offer is the next step. We decided that the beginning is how to cooperate, how to work each other, and what about we should work. Because, for example, in the Izera cooperatives, they try to do a lot of things. A lot. Too many, I think. So they needed to find a way what is more or less important for them. So that was the basic work. And we will continue in the future, because it was a very experienced for both sides, I suppose.
Sorry. At the beginning of your presentation, you talk about the incubator. You have an incubator inside the university?
It was the incubator from the Krynova University. They've got something like an incubator, and it is also the project. They've got some money for that. They are producing also food.
Okay. You have,
we not, because I'm from Jagiellonian,
okay.
But we are the owner of the vineyard.
And the main dimension of the incubator is you have too many entrepreneurs, or not so?
As I could know, in Krynova they've got the starts up from the universities, okay. Mostly, because they are scientific, they are technological universities, so they are working on the technology of producing different kind of foods. So this is an incubator for that, especially.
Okay, thank you. You have another questions? No?
Maybe later.
One final question. In the learning process of your wine production, you have technicians, foreign technicians, or just inside your country? Because you say you don't have a long history about wine production. Like
yes, we've got a long.
Yes,
we've got a long history. It's not exactly the long history. The long history was for the Tyniec Abbey, but they stopped producing the wine in 19th century. But in Poland, the first vineyards back in the 2000s.
Okay.
So it is not a long tradition, but it is very scientific, you know. So we've got enology studies, and they are very about the chemistry, the technology. Yes.
not foreign.
They try to learn, but for example, in the Jagiellonian University vineyard, they tried to produce the typical European wine, and after problems, they cut everything and start again. So it was the experiment, and I suppose in this moment it is not such difficult because we've got hybrid plants. So they are different, and most of Polish plants are hybrid. And as I heard last time, because we had a new regulation in the European Union from the end of 2021, I don't know as I could remember, and they, after this new regulation, only in Champagne, just showed about 400 new vineyards. So in Champagne, in France especially, there is a problem with plants, with the pesticides and a lot of chemistry with producing the wine. So the hybrid is, in this part of Europe, and because of the climate change, sometimes it's better. Because of that, we can't try to produce the wine.
Okay. Any more questions? Sorry about that. And the quality of the wine is good?
Yes, especially the white wine, you know. The red depends, but they learn. But I think the white wine very often is really, really very good.
Okay, lucky Azores. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on to the third paper before the coffee break, okay? The third paper is about the potentialities and evidence from generative creative tourism in traditional cultural events. The Semana Farroupilha in Brazil in analysis. And we have our colleague Magnus to present the third paper, okay?
Yes. Thank you. The mode. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. I like so much to see many colleagues here, and I'm pleased to be here with us to introduce. And I would like to introduce myself because I believe that, and myself and my university and the students that we realize, because I believe that this conference is a good place to create networks and to share some information about the research. That is one of all. For me, this conference is very important because my wife from Brazil is Poti Fonseca, and she is here and in Ribeira Grande, where her grandpa was born in the 15th century, is from here. She's 13 generation from here, Ribeira Grande. This is ancestrality. It's very nice. It's amazing. Then I would like to rescue your family ancestrality from Antônio Bicudo Carneiro. So but I don't talk about that in this moment. But this is very interesting because
another paper
is a lot of paper. Where keep my mouse? I have a graduate class on qualitative methods applied in the social science, and I am researching about the territory development, entrepreneurship, and innovation in the public sector. So, my university is Universidade Federal de Viçosa, is in the southwest Brazil, it's not in the capital, next to the Rio de Janeiro, Juiz de Fora, Belo Horizonte, the bigger cities. I'm a research in this research group on management and development of creative territories since 2012. This group is inserted in the Research Center in the Public Administration Policy. This is the main topics, the management and the public policy, territorial development, innovation and entrepreneurship in the public sector, innovation labs in the tourism too, and the creative economy in tourism. We connect the research with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, specifically SDG 8, 11, and 12. Since 2019, we have been waiting for the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, France, to complete the evaluation of your proposed chair in public policy and creative economy, involving 14 higher education institutions, but not only academics. The practice we wanted to include 2, and this is a low process by UNESCO is because the pandemic situation that the UFV, my university, is host of this chair, and I'm this coordinator of this moment, and I need to improve my English too. We start in this year, and we will organize in this month or the first conference of this subject in Ouro Preto, Minas Gerais. We see about this conferences in Ouro Preto in Brazil. Then, now I will talk about the locus of my research is an event, a traditional cultural event. The name is the Farroupilha Week, Farroupilha Camp Week. Is a material and immaterial representation of a small town of 3,000 people that is set up and dismantled annually for 60 days to function in 2 weeks in September. Farroupilha Camp Week is the biggest event allusive to traditionalism, gauche culture, specifically from South Brazil, near Uruguay, Argentina, to celebrate the Farroupilha Revolution. This event, the historical event, is more important for native people and from this place, and this event occurred, or this revolution that occurred in the 19th century, during the 19th century. It is held at the park, in the Central Park in the Porto Alegre, is the capital of Rio Grande do Sul, during September, between 7 and 20, and is composed of almost 400. I don't know. Explain in Portuguese is piquets. Piquets is a little camp into the big camping in this week. This is organized by the traditionalist groups companies and diverse associations, social associations of Porto Alegre, where they cultivate the habits of the gauche tradition. So this research is ongoing. I have a lot of sentence to share with us because the paper ongoing too, and we have a little pictures to maybe for us, for you see about more that this case. So I change my slide now. So we proposal is the creative tourism approach adds value and dynamism to cultural events, and we understand that we saw in this week the workshops too that take place in small groups at home or in the cultural producers' workplace, bringing visitors close in the local community. And I would like to see this. This is important. In the Farroupilha wiki, the Farroupilha camping week, we see the specifically tourism form. We says galpon tourism. The galpon tourism activities arise in the context in the Porto Alegre Creative Tourism Program, considered the first Brazilian public policy to promote creative tourism at the local level through the articulation of the members of the municipality with the organize of the traditional event in the region. And I would like to show. This sentence is important too. This policy started by the municipality, but the suppliers, the suppliers from social organizations that move the traditionally gauche traditionalism is more important to conduct this. And I would like to show the pictures about the city. The city is a small city because 3,000 people that are there. Yes, is aqui, ó. These galpon tourism activities take place of the environment of the Farroupilha camp built on an eventual basis and annual basis aimed to replicate the countryside landscape. Galpon sheet refers to existing a construction in the resorts destined to shelter people and animals, characteristic of the Rio Grande do Sul's countryside landscape. It's a rustic construction of regular size, generally made of raw wood, and partially of a rammed earth, where in ground fire pit it is always lit. It provides shelter and arm the people with resorts and parts by tropeiro or galdeiro who needs it. And the themes of galpon tourism activities aim to extol gauche traditionalists and practice cuisine, dance, beliefs, legends, clothes, and local music too. This Farroupilha camp was created in 1981 alongside the creation of Harmonia Park, the public space commonly used by the local population for leisure activities. A lot of people come out on board outside the Porto Alegre, to go to Porto Alegre to share that. And in the area is a 65-hectare space composed of decoration that involve aspects of gauche life in the countryside, such as the use of outdoor barbecues, known as fogo de chão, and in-ground fire. Similar, but don't have a vulcan. Similar here to prepare the food. Close the Azores. The reproduction of the small town with a central location of Porto Alegre during 20 days. And so here are something. The typical dance workshop sheet with the Galpão Tourism, that one of the 400 pickets built and dismantled after 20 days. These are pictures from the Farroupilha Camp Street, and the entrance of the Bolinho de Chuva is a typical desert, maybe in the workshop to make that. And another picture here. It's very interesting because there are a central of hospitality sheet as a reception space organized by members of the city hall, the municipality, in order to receive the people interested in the participating in the tourism activities. In addition to provide information of the event, the Galpão da Hospitalidade is very important to not only to diffuse, but to integrate and to organize connect the participants, the markets, and the suppliers in this context. This is a walk guide by a professional in the field in the Galpão Tourism. This is a typical close of a gauche traditionalism. And yes, another picture is too close aqui. Yes, the final consideration ongoing too. I would like to share here. This project says Galpão Tourism is specifically tourism in this traditionalism event based on the first phase of the creative tourism development was successful in the concept activities of Farroupilha Camp. Once visitors experience local cultural practices through contact with the cultural producers or suppliers themselves, then with the knowledge acquired through the social interaction. And I would like to highlight the authenticity that is very important. Is the sense of the typical practice of a society is then revealed as a driving and a distinct element of creative tourism activities. The interview states, all the workshops inside the camp are of a traditionally something original, unique, with tourists can only live in the 20 days of Farroupilha Camp. And the other highlighted, the purpose of the Galpão Tourism was the workshops to take place in the exchange space, not just a lecture. It's very important. There is therefore the active participation of individuals in the activities offered throughout the event emerged as the attractive potential for offerers and the visitors to develop their creative and tourism experience. And I would like to finish and to the extent of knowledge between visitors and hosts, and the co-creation of memory stories and moments based on the creative component of regional cultural expressions. And I will finish this paper soon. Then if you want more information about that, you send the mail for me and I write in English or in Portuguese for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Have any questions? Could we? No?
You are there in this project during the process?
Yes, but I would like to go next year because this research start before the pandemic. Then I would like to go there to see the legacy of the creative tours maintain this in this specifically event. No, yes, the social, the suppliers, and the social, the social organizations that organize this and maintain the traditionalist gauche. I don't know. It's explained in Portuguese, in English maybe. Accept this practice and maybe discover yourself that there are value that my knowledge about the to cookie or to my dress or the another habits or customs. There are the other told me, oh, this is nice. I would like to know. I would like to learn. Then the specific communities this discovery that your value then with others. Then I think this is one that the others highlights of this research, and we need to learn more and discover more, to research more, because is a good way to connect the visitors, and they would like to connect it, because the people is cultive the gauche traditionalism, but with difference. Then this is a good way to connect the difference. I saw that. Thank you for the question. Ok, obrigado.
Olá, professor. É só porque, mesmo em relação ao nosso projeto, interessa-nos compreender, a ver se ali a evidência, não é? A procura da evidência e a análise. E eu gostava de saber e se calhar foi referido e salta, mas se existe alguma forma de recolher esta opinião dos turistas, portanto, essa avaliação da experiência e do impacto, qual é o método? É observação?
Nós utilizamos, né? We used the participatory observation, okay. But and the diaries, the smartphones with authors when the people yes, permitted. Thank you, permitted, and not use the questionnaires, the more informal techniques, because the more important is the content, the information is that. Then, but I saw another event, not in the Farroupilha Camp Week. I saw use the app, but I don't know about that. But I mean with visitors in another event, a conference, not another traditional event. I use the app, but maybe both. I believe that it's okay to get the information from the visitors.
O nosso projeto é de investigação e desenvolvimento e, portanto, nesta etapa é mesmo necessário recolher evidências
Sim.
que demonstrem que o impacto, portanto, que foi mesmo uma experiência inclusiva. Se não somos só nós a dizer.
Sim.
Por isso é que, como também, era esta também a questão de dizer, portanto, não é só no projeto do Magno, mas é no geral.
Sim.
É um turismo regenerativo, mas confirma-se.
Sim,
não
é verdade.
Claro que nem toda a oferta turística vai ter que ser testada. Depois
Sim.
a ideia é que surjam produtos que após serem testados e confirmados são efetivamente, aí se calhar será só para observação ou satisfação. Mas nesta fase, até mostrar que...
I will use, in this case, se eu fosse fazer, I will use this case mixed methods. That participatory observation and the app, the Google Forms to get some information. And the visual too, photographies and but the information, specific information for quantitative research, I use the Google Form.
Thank you.
Any more questions? May I tell you, please, that you are in the right place, because when I... It's very similar. It's a small event, but you must read about that. Cavalhadas of São Peter. Okay, you are in the right place.
Well, thank you to share because
It's very important. The
Yes.
tradition and the gastronomy, everything. It's maybe it's
the name is
Cavalhadas
Carvalhadas.
de São Pedro, Ribeira Grande, right in Ribeira Grande city. Okay. I don't know what is the month. What is the month of the... Dia de São Pedro, que é mais ou menos...
Junho. 30 de junho. Mais ou menos. 29 a 30 de junho.
Oh, in the end of June. Okay. Cavalhadas. It's very similar. Okay. Olha, mais informação. Tens aqui um museu mesmo.
Sim.
Não ao ritual, não, as cavalhadas são um cariz religioso, foi por causa da erupção vulcânica. Mas, se não ver no ritual da cavalhada, no ritual da indumentária, muitas semelhanças.
Thank you.
It's important for your literature review. Okay. Thank you so much. So let's go to the coffee break. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
comunidad Lapana. We strongly feel that Cypriot monoculture is lost in the midst of our past and its pain that still holds power over us. We are committed to designing an interactive physical platform that will act as a hub for artists to create and present their work, allowing both local and foreign tourists of all ages and backgrounds who visit to observe, enjoy and even take part in the process. We strive to present work of undervalued artists from all communities in order to form a genuine representation of Cypriot culture. With the diffusion of culture in Bulgaria, we enhance the social cohesion of the region, providing sustainable employment opportunities and career prospects which aid to build a resilient and pluralistic social market economy. Our main ingredient is, of course, the art. Historically, art has acted as a window of
historical cultural region site.
Free for download, easy for use, everything by the touch. Accommodation, gastronomy, wild nature, and all of them you can find in our interactive map.
Return to medieval city of Bačka. In our virtual tour, you will have a chance to return to 15th century and become a citizen of a recreated Bač fortress, speak with the different characters, and find the secret treasure of the Mongol Empire.
And if you want to see
So I'll be moderating this session. Thank you so much for being here, and we will probably have more public in a while after the coffee break. They will be coming in. Today we have 4 presentations, and we will start, and the topic of this concurrent session 8.5 is culture and tourism strategies, tools, and methods. And we will be starting with the topic, with the project Digital Cultural Mapping in Tourism at Lake Constance, Germany. And I won't be reading the resume, I won't be reading the abstract, so I will be taking too much time, but some information about biographical notes. This is a project by 4 people. Professor Dr. Tatiana Thim is a professor for tourism management at Constance University of Applied Sciences. In Germany, her focus in research is on cultural and sustainable tourism. One of her main research areas is Lake Constance in Germany, and it's beautiful. Then we have Lara Leuchen, is deputy head of the Center for Arts Management at Zurich, University of Applied Studies, Switzerland, and holds a master's degree in urban systems. Her research interests include creative industries and urban development, as well as creative tourism. So I guess Patrick and Florian are not here with us, but you can take a look at their bio notes afterwards. So thank you so much for being here, and yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so it's not visible yet? No. Okay. No, it's on. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. So again, the title is Digital Cultural Mapping in Tourism at Lake Constance in Germany. And my name is Tatiana Thim. I'm from Constance University of Applied Science, and I'm doing this presentation together with my colleague Lara Leuchen. She's going to introduce herself.
Yeah, I guess introduction has already been done, but I'm researcher at the Zurich University of Applied Sciences at the Center for Arts Management. And while our center mostly does research on cultural participation and audience development, but personally, I'm also very much interested in the role of culture for regional development, and currently I'm doing my PhD project also about creative tourism and sustainable regional development in Switzerland.
So you can see that this is a collaboration, Swiss-German collaboration between Zurich University of Applied Sciences and Constance University of Applied Sciences. And also here you can see the area of investigation, which is Lake Constance. And the interesting thing here is that this is a 3 or 4, depending on how you're looking on it, country region consisting of Germany in the north, Switzerland in the south, and Austria. So the region is very rich regarding cultural heritage. So there is a very old tradition of carnival. There are castles, there are medieval buildings. Also regarding language, it's very interesting. So the area is German spoken, but there is a dialect, for example, Swiss German there, and so it is far away from standard German. So this is also an interesting variety regarding language. Then very famous, the opera stage, which is in the lake. So it is built in the lake. So this is the scenery of Rigoletto over there. You also find pine dwellings and also a contemporary art, a contemporary dance, but also regarding cultural heritage in industry. So the Zeppelin was built in the area.
Yes, well, in our research project, we investigated the cultural identity of the cross-border region, Lake Constance. And another goal of our research project was also to explore the potentials of participatory cultural mapping for cultural planning and also for tourism planning. And in doing so, we were guided by these research questions, which are: how do the local population, businesses, and tourists perceive the regional cultural identity and image of the Lake Constance region? Then how can the approach of cultural mapping be digitally transformed through participatory mapping? And how can cultural identity and mobility be visualized with digital storytelling in story maps? And what contribution can cultural mapping 4.0 make as a participatory tool for regional planning and communication with stakeholders in the Lake Constance region and elsewhere? And well, before I go into our methodological proposal, I would like to introduce a few terms. First, cultural mapping, and according to Duxbury et al., cultural mapping is a method that uses different techniques to capture not only cultural resources, but also local histories, memories, and rituals, and is used in the fields of urban planning, cultural development, and community development. Participatory mapping is basically one form of cultural mapping, allowing participants to draw spatial points, lines, and areas directly on digital maps, and typically refers to different geographic information systems technologies. And last but not least, story mapping is a spatial form of digital storytelling, combining textual, visual, and auditory means of communication. And later on, we will also see an example for story map. So this conceptual understanding lays also the groundwork for our proposal of cultural mapping 4.0, combining the concepts of participatory mapping and story mapping. So in our research project, we focused on 4 topics: cultural resources, economy and labor, civil society and integration, and tourism and mobility. And to obtain data, we involved different stakeholders, ranging from regional planners, local companies, to local population and tourists. And the theoretical basis is provided by a literature review of the still rather young field of cultural mapping, and the complementary disciplines of participatory mapping and story mapping. So basically, our central proposal for our case study, Lake Constance, is to extend analog forms of cultural mapping with visualization workflows and techniques from the geoinformatics, and this means participatory mapping on the data collection side and story mapping for the dissemination of the results. So as you can see here, we could involve different stakeholders and listed here, and despite COVID, we were able to obtain these data, luckily, because as you can imagine, this cultural mapping study largely relied on field work. So of course it was influenced and affected by COVID, like evening curfews, tourism bans, etc. And that's also why we decided to further exploit the potential of digital communication. So we distributed our questionnaire for tourists and residents also via social media. But luckily, in the end, last summer, we were also able again to conduct on-site interviews. So for this purpose, we worked with different groups of students who are placed at different locations around the Lake Constance, and we equipped them with tablet computers, and they asked residents and tourists about their perception of the Lake Constance region. So our questionnaire contained different types of questions. First, usual text questions, as you can see here on this screenshot, but also questions asking participants to draw lines, points, and areas. And we included a video, but now it works perfectly. Just to give you an impression. So participants could use different tools to draw their spatial perceptions. Okay. So the results were published on a platform called Cultural Mapping 4.0. Unfortunately, the results are only available in German, but I will now hand over to you, and you will guide us a bit through the results.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, these results are presented in the form of the story maps. So this is what Lara explained in the very beginning, and I just wanted to give you an impression what it looks like. So everything is in German, but I think you can read that. It's identity versus image. So and just what are the possibilities of a story map? So they are a very interesting tool in visualizing, so visualizing in a different way. And here you get the first example. So this is a kind of a split, let's say, visual. And so I can go to this side, to the left side. Come on, go to the left, yes. And I can go to the right side. The right side, so these are the first impressions that come up when we asked residents, so what is Lake Constance for you? So, and you can see the lake, so S-E-E, so this is lake. This is what comes up first, which is very dominant. And this is just the same with the tourist. Also, you see the lake. But one of the differences you can see here, the residents, of course, they come up with a word like Heimat, which is homeland, right? So apart from that, they are pretty similar. So this is the first ideas that come in mind when you ask about Lake Constance tourists. So this is the tourist, and these are the residents. So, and you can see this is an interesting visual display. So here you can show the differences in the story map easily. I go to another point, which is more on tourism, and I just scroll through that. So you can see it's the mixture of text, of charts, of pictures, and then this possibility to flip around between them, and that's the basic idea. So this one here is pretty easy. So this is just a map, so showing the cultural assets of the lake. And so this is, here we have text followed by maps. And this is another one I just wanted to show you. This is the catchment area, or let's say accessibility. And you can say here, the greener the color here, so the faster, so the easier you can reach the cultural side. Yeah, this is just giving you an idea what are the possibilities of a story map, right? So it's the specific visualization that is of interest here.
Okay, perfect. So coming to an end of our presentation, we would like to draw a brief conclusion. So with CultMap 4.0, we were able to develop a prototype for a cross-border participatory tool for regional planning and communication with stakeholders. Using participatory mapping for data collection and story mapping for presentation, different aspects of cultural identity, and as well as respondent subjective perceptions, values, and opinions could be made visible spatially. However, of course, there's still more research needed on how to integrate cultural mapping into planning processes. And this basically holds true, first of all, for the areas of application in tourism and cultural planning, but also for the geoinformatic implementation. Because right now, this prototype still requires a lot of manual processes done by our GIS experts. So future research could focus, for example, on how to automate these processes and also how to create a more user-friendly surface to actually use cultural mappings for cultural planning processes. Part of our project was also a stakeholder workshop, and we discussed also the further development of this prototype with regional stakeholders, and from this discussion, two main recommendations resulted. First, the regional stakeholders see the need to further expand the CultMap 4.0 database for long-term monitoring. And actually in this project, the whole topic of cultural identity of this cross-border region was considered for the first time on a cross-border basis. So politically, actually, they're very much called upon to cooperate across borders, but they are lacking the databases. So this was provided for the first time, basically. Then another recommendation was also to expand the platform features, to use it for destination marketing. And one suggestion was to link booking options to these cultural mappings, and also to offer advertising options to fund the platform. Well, last but not least, one short reflection on cultural mapping and creative tourism. So, bearing in mind that creative tourism requires creativity from both sides, providers and tourists, and considering that this creativity and co-creation can basically span the whole value chain from development to distribution and production and consumption, we think that cultural mapping has also potential for creative tourism. For example, thinking of the development and conception phase, cultural mappings can give valuable insights into the target group needs. But also when it comes to distribution, of course, you can use these cultural mappings, especially if they're attractively designed for marketing purposes. But also the process of participatory mapping has great potential for new co-creative marketing approaches. So, for example, you can ask tourists to map their experiences and memories. So these are just a few examples for the potential of cultural mapping for creative tourism. And with this, we would like to end our presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, and thank you for respecting the time, 15 minutes straight. And thank you for enlightening us about the process of cultural mapping 4.0. It's really, really interesting. And we are in the process of doing cultural mapping here in the Azores, so this is quite an interesting example, so thank you so much. Instead of continuing with the presentation, and since we are a few just in the table, I will open the debate per participant for intervention. So we'll have around 10 minutes for questions or comments. So it's open for some questions or comments.
In terms of the map integration, would you consider it interesting in terms of the data that comes from mobility and from flows of people around those, and presenting maps on the fly from the updated information at any given time, also to help? I saw some stations that were quite close in terms of cultural visits, in order to somewhat guide the experience towards something that is less, instead of just basing us on Google Maps that has that information. It's a little bit more busy than now. It's a new feature on Google Maps, but you can easily do that if you were able to integrate. Or in terms of the participation, so this is another question, I'm sorry for that. But if you have any idea of how you would promote participation from people, because people are not normally willingly, except for influencers, to show wherever they are at any given moment, either offering discounts or some type of appealing for people to participate and and therefore to create a more consistent database. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, technically a lot is possible. So integrating it into Google Maps and offering more technical features, this is possible. But we had limits in the project, so technical limits and limits of funding. And when the project ended, we also had to end our work. So, but of course, many things are possible. And regarding, I mean, we discussed in a stakeholder workshop the idea of making it open and leave it to the stakeholders to build on that, to enhance the whole thing or to modify it. But it didn't work, to be frank. So end of the money, end of the project. So as usual, right? We discussed it. There was a certain interest, but it didn't lead to any further action. So do you agree?
Yes, I agree, but with your question, actually, you also addressed a very important topic, representativeness, because this is very important when it comes to these cultural mapping processes. You really have to pick wisely who participates, otherwise you have a bizarre picture. So our data set, to be honest, is not representative, because this project was also about the geoinformatic implementation, so it's really just a prototype. If you want to work with these data for planning, you need to make sure to choose a good, the participants well. Yeah.
And that was also due to COVID. So doing surveys during COVID, so everything was limited. So we couldn't send out all the students to the field because they couldn't enter Germany, so they were just not there. And also approaching tourists during the pandemic or residents, so that were limitations. So that's also why our database is not that huge as we wanted it to be, right? Mm-hmm.
We have another question. I think Tiago looked at me when I said 10 minutes for each, so it's 5 minutes each. So yeah, so we can have some time.
So I really enjoyed your presentation. The only thing that I didn't completely understood is if you are using this kind of mapping only for planning or also for the common use, let's say for the use of the tourists. And if so, once you are working on mapping, the idea that I have with my students is that each time more they read less maps, and they don't understand reading maps sometimes. Okay. And what do you think about the future using this kind of maps for tourists? Do you have to have another intervention in order to help them with the maps? Because the traditional maps, I think, is changing. But as you are working on maps, I would like to know your opinion, let's say.
Well, I can start. So actually we haven't tried out to work with maps with tourists yet. They were just participating in creating the maps. But I think what you refer to is more for marketing purposes, to get an idea whether they understand. I think it's already a trend to work with these maps, but they are more simplistic. So these are not scientific geographical maps. They're more working with symbols to make people capture more easily what the message is. Yeah.
Yeah, so far we used story maps only for representing our research results. So this is what the story map is now like. So that was the purpose for our project, right? And then, I mean, we worked with the stakeholders, and it was an idea to build on that, to develop it, to make it more tailored to the customer so that it serves more planning or tourists, so that there is a more customer-oriented purpose in it. But as I said, end of the money, end of the project, and no further action was taken. And now, so we discussed that with the stakeholders that were interested, but then no action was taken. So I think that this would be a second project. So building on that, and then how to adapt that more to specific target groups. So it would be a second project, I think so.
Thank you so much. That was impressive. Thank you so much. And a good basis for other projects. And I will probably be talking to you afterwards.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And we will now, from the beautiful Lake Constance, we will go to Guimarães. Thank you so much. I will call Alexandra Correia.
Apresentar sozinha.
Sim, senhora. Tem aqui uma série de nomes para fazer referência.
Eu não sei, se calhar vou ficar aqui caminhando.
Just move all that away from you without hitting you, and I also need my glasses.
Oh yeah, and
my water.
Thank you.
So now we'll be having Alexandra Correia, and the project also with Olga Marques, Flora Seixeira, Raquel Cunha and Helena Morgado from the Institute Polytechnic de Viana do Castelo in Portugal. And Alexandra will be talking about the analysis of residents' perceptions of tourism and urban landscape, the case of the historical center of Guimarães in Portugal. And Alexandra, she has a PhD in tourism, is an assistant professor of tourism studies at the Polytechnic Institute of Viana do Castelo. She's the head of the Master in Innovative Tourism Development. We don't have here Flora, the other is not here, so yes. But thank you so much, Alexandra, for being here with us and sharing your projects and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like, first of all, to thank you, the organization, for the opportunity to be here. It's a great pleasure, and it's also a great pleasure, not only for the conference, but for being here in this such beautiful room. And I will be enjoying the views, if you don't mind. Actually, there is another colleague of ours that she's here in this conference as well, Olga Matos, and it is a shame, I must say, that she's not here at this presentation, because she's actually presenting there as well, because she is the main researcher of cultural tourism and urban heritage, and therefore, so anyway, this project was developed by other colleagues, and they couldn't come here, but I'll try to do my best. All right, so I will start by presenting the background of our study, and I will highlight some key ideas that support our project, our study. I will start by highlighting how urban landscape is perceived. So it is considered as part of the territory, and it is the character results from the action of natural and human factors, as well as from their interrelationships. We all know that heritage is one of the main destination resources, and is also one of the main tourist motivations for visit cities. It attracts tourists, and particularly landscapes of exceptional quality. We also know that tourism is potentially and important for regions. It's potentially important for the region's development, and as well as for population's well-being. When I'm saying potentially, it's also because we all know that tourism doesn't have benefits only. Anyway, so when we consider urban landscape tourism, this relation, this interaction is inevitable, and because residents and tourists interact in the same place, in the same space, and therefore understanding what residents perceive or how they perceive this interaction is actually the base of our study, and this is particularly applied in Guimarães, a city that is well grounded in cultural heritage, that seeks to honor the UNESCO's World Heritage Site classification in 2001. So the aim is to assess or to analyze residents' perceptions of the benefits as well as potential conflict resulting from this interaction, urban landscape and tourism activity. And we focused on the historic center of Guimarães, which is in the north of Portugal. This city, which is around 160,000 inhabitants in total, is more and more recognized for cultural tourism, and is one of actually the main destinations in Portugal for cultural tourism, and the tourists mainly come from Spain, Brazil, and France, for example. We have collected data based on a questionnaire that was already implemented or conducted in other studies, because originally it was developed by a research team in the University of Seville, and it was already conducted in other cities such as Seville, Malaga, and Porto. The original questionnaire had the criteria in gray. However, our research team, this team that I'm together presenting this study, considered that once the literature provides other criteria for assessing the quality of urban landscape, we can see that it was relevant to include other criteria as well. We have conducted a pre-test with 30 residents. We started, and the aim was to collect face-to-face. However, then pandemic came along, and so we had to adapt, and also we applied on Google, through Google Forms. In total, we have 291 questionnaires. Face-to-face, you can see there is this difference, and I can highlight, in a way, this can be also already a kind of a limitation, but we'll discuss that later on. And regarding the analysis, we will be presenting descriptive statistics based on frequency and percentage. Moving to the respondents' profile, basically they are working in intellectual and scientific areas, and they are mainly female, and their age ranges from the 30s till the 60s in total percentage. Moving now to data presentation, the way we would like to do this is to guide you through the key numbers or key ideas that come up from our analysis, all right, to be simple. And so when we were asking about directional signaling, these were the items considered, and so most of 82% consider that is sufficient. They consider the design adequate. The location is also adequate. They consider it useful, and they consider that it does not damage what they think as the landscape or the perceptions about that. Considering now urban furniture, they also consider that it is sufficient, the design also adequate, the location as well, very useful, and does not damage the landscape. Moving to forestation and the green places, they consider it sufficient, even though with a lower percentage, and the design or the organization is adequate, and it does not damage, of course, the landscape. The traffic, they consider that it does not damage, and then we have the sufficient pedestrian zones, and in here we can see that their opinions are not, I mean, there are more divided opinions, because some of them consider it's enough and sufficient, and some of them, more or less the same number, consider it's not. Regarding the tourist flow, and we can see that 85% consider that is not disturbing for the residents in this historic center. And the elements that they like most, monuments, history, gardens, and the landscape as a overall. Regarding mobility, parking, and safety, transports and mobility are considered sufficient for 42%. Then parking is also sufficient for about 30%, and safety for 57%. Then we also asked them whether they consider the relevant, the recovery works, or the works that sometimes happen in this context, and as we can see, 60% consider adequate. And the noise, they consider it's not very annoying. Then we asked them to indicate their degree of satisfaction with urban landscape, and although we can say that 48% they are satisfied, we also can see that 43%, which is not too away from the previous number, are not really sure, so it makes us think. Moving to the conclusions, we can say that for public administration, adopt policies and to put into practice some actions it is important for them, or it becomes a solid argument that local residents have a positive perception of this interaction with tourists. So we can conclude mainly that this perception is mainly positive and that they are mostly satisfied with urban landscape, particularly highlighting directional signaling, urban furniture, also florestation and gardens, mobility, parking and safety, and then noise and traffic that sometimes we know that are major issues are not considered annoying in this case. Also that tourists do not disturb the residents, and that they also consider the works that sometimes need to go on or to occur are relevant and adequate. In terms of implications, we understand that this study or these results are important insights for future proposals, procedures, or even strategic actions by the municipality in order to consider Guimarães' urban landscape as a driving force for the development or promotion of not only tourism and the way of life, but also the residents' well-being with their own city. Limitations. Apart from the number of questionnaires, we also can say that whenever applied mixed, sometimes it's tricky because we cannot control who is answering, right? But at that time we had to go along with the study, so we decided to go with online research as well. Then regarding further research, what comes next is that we would like to compare this study or this data with the previous studies as well. And apart from understanding the major topic that we also were talking, I think we do have also potential for looking into this into a different perspective, which is the competitiveness when it comes to the role of residents in it. And that's it. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed. And if you have any question, of course, I'll like to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. And we have time. Thank you so much. And also thank you for, it's quite interesting to have all these very optimistic results.
It is true, right?
It's really quite interesting to get all these kind of results. But we cannot forget that Guimarães was already European capital of culture. So it was in which year? It was in
2012.
2012. So hopefully, let's see if the Azores, Ponta Delgada, Azores, we are in the final list. Let's see if we get the prize to be the European Capital of Culture for 2027. Yeah, we're crossing our fingers. So, Alexandra, thank you so much. I will open for questions, the debate, the comments. We have one question over there.
Yeah, thank you so much. The essence of your presentation was that the residents are content with the situation. Do you think this may change with numbers increasing in Guimarães?
Definitely, yes. I think so. At the moment I don't know, I mean, that's something that I didn't bring to the presentation, the exact numbers, but yes, because more and more, Guimarães is a small city when we compare it to other cities such as Porto, Lisbon, and after pandemic, more and more people looked for smaller places with less people, and we have witnessed, even after pandemic, a rise in the numbers. So I do believe, because although it's true, they seem to be happy, kind of. There are also results that makes us think and that we can also explore in greater detail, because sometimes not all of them think like that, right? So I'm sure there will be some people that we would need to understand why they are not so happy, and in the future, I think the demand or the raising in numbers will contribute to that, yes. And also, there is also another major concern, because sometimes when we know that when people travel to other cities, they do not respect. And recently, there was a person that damaged, help me, Reginald, to say that in English, the statue of Enrico. Yeah, exactly. The first, damaged, and it was shocking. And I think if the numbers raise and if this kind of behaviors raise as well, population will not like it, of course, and particularly in this city, in the north of Portugal, that a local community, they are very proud of their own traditions, and they take it very personally, this kind of behavior. So that's it, yeah. I hope I have answered to the question, and thank you so much for your question.
I think we have one over there. And then
just a very small question, because I understand that here you have to present the general results. But do you have the division between the ones who responded the questions living in the modern areas of Guimarães, who are not disturbed at all by tourists, and the ones who live in the historical center? Because, for instance, it's about the noise. I think the questions probably are quite different. Because if I'm thinking about other cities, Lisbon is the one I consider best. If people from my neighborhood, which is not touristic, is going to answer this survey, they will be very positive. But if you go to people living in Alfama, in the old town, or in downtown, probably the perception is quite different. Did you make that division or not?
Thank you for your question. And I'm sorry if I didn't make this clear in the beginning, because questionnaires were only applied to residents of the historic center. Yeah, only, yeah. But if not, that would be an interesting comparison, and probably would come up with a... It's different, yeah.
the policymakers, and the mayor is probably very happy with these numbers. Quite interesting.
And they will use it.
I know, they will, for sure. Just one more question?
Yes, so you said that, okay. Okay, so you said that there were some policies that the mayors did in order to come with these numbers. So what kind of you said
I didn't say that. I said that in the city sometimes there are recovery works, and that happened, right? They are doing paths or these kind of things, limiting the traffic and the parking, these kind of things. What I said was that these insights can be helpful for the municipality to develop strategies and to implement some actions. And actually, I also didn't refer this in the beginning. There is a protocol with this municipality that our research team did. We celebrated this protocol, and they will be using this information because it was the basis for that. We had all the support, because, for example, to collect data, we had to contact them and getting them helping us to distribute questionnaires as well, or to motivate people to answer. And in the end, they have this already, because they were very interested in this, because there are not so many studies looking into that, particularly focusing this interaction, urban landscape and tourism. It's not just the tourism, because in that case we have other studies, but focusing this urban landscape as heritage and tourism, there is no money, there are no data. There is no data about that, so they will be using that for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. So we'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you
very
much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
So from the Lake Constance to Guimarães and now to Lisbon, is que tá? but probably a broader perspective. So we'll have Pedro Costa from Isqueté and from the Dinamia Set Isqueté. He will be talking about cultural impacts, DIY,
Do it yourself.
DIY, a self-assessment toolkit unveiling the multidimensionality of value creation in cultural activities. Pedro Costa is professor at the Department of Political Economy at Isqueté and director of Dinamia Set Isqueté, Research Center on Socioeconomic Change and Territory, where he coordinates the Cities and Territories Research Group. Economist, PhD in urban and regional planning, he works primarily in the areas of territorial development, planning, and cultural economics. His research activities particularly centered on the study of the relationship between cultural activities, creative dynamics, and sustainable territorial development. Okay, Pedro, we are all yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, but I'm here on behalf of a larger team. With these co-authors, Elizabeth Tomás, Margarida Pestrelo, and Ricardo Lopes, but also a wider team in Dinamia that is working in several projects in the questions of value and of value of cultural activities and measuring impacts of these activities. And so what I will bring here today is a toolkit that we were developing and that it's now available online, that is called Cultural Impacts Do It Yourself. That is a self-assessment toolkit that we hope allows to unveil the multidimensionality of value creation in cultural activities. It's essentially a self-assessment toolkit, and I will try to explain why. The idea is essentially I think I will center here, particularly by time constraints, I think, with the description of the process of developing this toolkit, this approach and toolkit, in conceptual terms and in methodological terms. And then, very briefly, talk about the tool itself and, if there is time, the experimental application that we made, a recent experimental application in the scope of one of the projects that is here involved. So the idea, the departing point is the value notion. The value of culture is traditionally very complex, but fertile debate in cultural economics and in other fields. I will not enter to that, but just to highlight that today it is being challenged in several manners. In all the dimensions of the cultural activities, in production and creation ways, in the way people consumption or the fruition of culture, in the mediation mechanisms and the algorithms and everything that today are the central in the mediation of these activities. And on the other hand, we also have a political and social pressure for the impacts assessment of arts and culture and to justify the reasons for the importance of culture, in particular in recent years in social fabric, but traditionally in economic terms. But at the same time, we have dissatisfaction with the measurement tools that are traditionally used, particularly the economic-based ones, the need for new tools and new models to try to understand the multidimensionality of value. And we had here a potential in several different research projects to study this. One of these projects was the Creatur project in the mainland. And so the idea here is to and with all this work is to propose a new conceptual grid and a pragmatic toolkit to assess and to allow self-assessment of the impacts of cultural and creative activities in the communities or territories, in their diversity and multidimensionality. For this, in conceptual terms, we depart from the side of the culture, the relation between culture and development, and the literature on value of culture and impacts on culture, but trying to cross three different streams of assessing literature. The one on sustainability impacts, mainly ecological ones, we can say that, but in territorial development, but also the culture and the tourism literature. But in pragmatical terms, what we were essentially was seizing the opportunity of co-creating instruments for measuring these with artists, producers, other researchers, and so on, in different contexts, in Portugal and the European Union projects, and in culture and tourism, but with different kinds of actors in different research projects that I will explain later. So in terms of this relation between culture and development, that is something that we are trying to study for some decades now, but this relation, we are assuming, I will not discuss what we intend by culture, but assuming all these cultural activities, cultural practices, cultural dynamics, cultural identity, with all the discussions that we could have here, and also development, we are considering developing of a territory or of a community as the capacity of this territory to furnish, to give well-being and quality of life to people that want to be there or that use that territory. In that sense, the relation between culture and territory and development of territories has been in different years measured in different ways, and we can assume those 5 dimensions there that I will use: economic, social, and environment, traditional dimensions, but also the dimension of citizenship and participation, and also the cultural dimension itself that is fundamental, because what we have been assisting in the recent decades was essential an instrumentalization, as many have argued, of culture in this process, because we are seeing the importance of the culture in development because they include people, they express different the identities, they create jobs, they create urban renewal, but also they are a mean for the obtention of several objectives of development, but they are an objective of development itself, culture by culture itself. And so a culture should be seen not just a mean or instrument, but as an end or a goal of development. And so cultural dimension is also fundamental there. And we are assuming this relation also by several ways, because this relation, culture delivers well-being and quality of life because, on one hand, because people are experiencing the cultural activities, and so they are having an aesthetic experience, they are a knowledge transmission here, so in terms of fruition. But also because in this relation capacitates the possibility of expression, of cultural expression. An artist or a creative tourist, for instance, they are expressing themselves and they are acceding to development in that sense. But also traditional because this enables the building of identities, collective identities, individual identities, and the collective memory and the accumulation of collective memory. But also because, and that is something that many times we tend to forget, particularly the cultural promoters, and the ones that are seizing the impacts in terms of justifying the importance of these activities, the externalities that we have, and particularly the negative ones. Because, of course, cultural activities also bring many negative externalities. We have talked about several now in Guimarães, but there is many others. The idea for us is to realize the importance and the impacts of cultural or creative activities or dynamics in the territories or communities. I will not enter in these discussions, but trying to move from the idea of measurability, that is more immediate, to the perception of the multidimensionality of value. Because what we have here is a dissatisfaction, as I was saying, with the conventional tools and the rationale that used behind these conventional tools to the measurement of impacts. But of course, acknowledging that we have here the need of this measurement and the utility of this measurement, not just pragmatic, because it's important to improve the activity that any promoter has, but also social and political in order to justify the investment or the funding, for instance, or the use of time or whatever in these activities. In the diversity of impacts. But these are the problems, particularly in this scope of Creatur project, of Creative Tour, with the 40 pilot in the mainland, 40 pilot projects of creative tourism, we try to assess the impacts with them. And they are very different kinds of activities, several very small, several were larger things, but all these barriers were appearing naturally when trying to assess what are because what should we measure and why? What impacts in what sense? What are we trying to measure? The sustainable development, the quality of life and well-being, but whose? But the cultural heritage, that what will legate to the next generations. We have an option here. What analytical dimension should consider, the economic, the social, and so on. But what kind of effects? Are we measuring direct effects on the activity, on the promoter, and indirect effects, for instance, the restaurants and so on, or induced activities, induced effects, for instance, in terms of cultural capital that is accumulated, or knowledge, or networks, and so on. But these can be tangible, intangible, some are quantifiable, some are not, or very difficultly. But and all these are layers of difficulty that we, but also effects for whom? Because when we ask everyone to try to assess their impacts, the idea was completely different if it was effects on the promoter or effects on the community, on the local community, that is very diffuse, what is the local community, or in society at large. For instance, with the impact that we have on tourists or not, or residents or not. And how to measure these effects in time, in the medium term, short term, and so on, in space, in the neighborhood, in the municipality, in the region, and with which, and that is the other huge problem, with which kind of indicators. It's easy to do it, input indicators, but also on output indicators, and of course outcome indicators that are more important, but difficult to achieve in a short term. And then another huge problem, that is what is the data and the quality of data, because the quality of data, as all you know, is awful. Awful and difficult to achieve in different projects. It's completely different if I have a festival with, or a cinema exhibition when I have mechanisms in terms of at least to measure audiences, and other kinds of activities, or a workshop with 7 persons to make gastronomy or whatever. So in that sense, our main idea is that we have to perceive the value of culture as multidimensional, as relative and contextual, and that people have different perception, motivations, or interests in each project. And so what we have here normally is different perception of the value, even in the different people that are involved in the same project. So for that, we were assuming these 5 dimensions, the cultural, the citizenship and participation, the economic, the ecological, and social. And we were trying to co-construct and test within 5 projects these in order to try to have a self-assessment toolkit with several dimensions, with several indicators that could be answered also in quantitative questions, but essentially by scale questions. And I will show very briefly. These were the different projects. The Creatour, it was a creative tourism project with 40 pilots. The Reshape was a European Union, a Creative Europe program funded project. With one of the trajectories was exactly to try to understand what is the value of culture in social fabric. The other is a local project for the Arte em Rede, that is a municipalities network in Portugal. The Arts Bank is another project where we working with urban interventions with communities. And Stronger Periphery is another European project where we are trying to do this in the scope of with 10 cultural promoters and networks around Europe. And so, very briefly, in terms of the model, our idea is to have the sustainable development in the center, but with these 5 dimensions. And for each of them, we were trying to have a set of sub-dimensions that we discussed within these projects. We were refining this grid, and this is the final version now. It's these 15 dimensions, sub-dimensions, and each one of them with 5 indicators. Just briefly, in cultural terms, we have one dimension related to the artistic cultural relevance of the work. With the cultural richness, those are the indicators that can be scaled in a scale from 1 to 7. self-assessed by persons with all the problems of self-assessment, okay, we can discuss that, and the creative embeddedness in the community and the territory. In the economic dimension, we have the economic viability of the project. That is, for instance, in creative projects, which was the most highlighted by people. More than the economic growth and local prosperity, that is usually the one that economists are tending to evaluate. And the structural change. For instance, how can I overcome seasonality? How can I create jobs and so on structurally? Or I can change the economy of a place, for instance. In social terms, the social cohesion and equity, the way the projects bring these, the way projects bring participants' fulfillment, and the way projects enable the engagement with the social fabric, and engage themselves with the social fabric with several indicators for each one. And in environment terms, of course, not just in terms of environment, also in economic or social, we have positive and negative effects. We are talking about impacts that can be positive and negative. This is clear also in environmental terms, but the valorization and protection of the physical environment, the responsible use of the resources, and the environmental quality and protection of biodiversity in the projects. And finally, the fifth dimension, the citizenship and participation with the way these projects enable identity expression, individual and collectively, in several dimensions. Civic participation, for instance, the issues of creative freedom, for instance, of promotion of questions and critical thinking, for instance, and the governance and quality of processes and policies, the way they inspired the policies, they change policies, or they enable democracy, for instance, in a place. So, it's, how much? Okay, so there is a toolkit that is online that we can explore. There is I cannot, if you want, it is this. I'm not sure if it's because it had a problem this weekend, so I hope it's, if it works, if you connect here. I will not try, but the outline is not exactly this, but they have the different information about the task and then the questions that people can put in a scale, and there is some automatic results. In terms of experimental application, I will not, it's very experimental with a very low number of participants. We had, of course, tried in previous versions of this project, but with these 75 indicators, we trying to put it in this stronger periphery project. I'll just skip to the conclusions of this, but it's interesting that we have people acknowledge the multidimensional of impacts, but there is high variance. It is natural because the projects are very different in different subdimensions. There are many differences. But what seems to be a constant in the applications that we had on this is the relative valorization of the self-valorization of the social and cultural impacts related to the economic impacts, as maybe it's expected, but also to the environment aspects. That is more strange for us, but it depends also in the kind of projects that we have here. They are not, most of them, they are not very linked to that. There is some things within each aspect, but particularly inside the economic effects, they are not valuing too much the indirect economic effects, the ones that are measured, and they value much more the economic, the self-promotion and self-sustainability of the project aspects as more important. But anyway, is a clear perception in all of the discrepancies between the intrinsic motivations that they have, that they think they are expressing with this self-assessment toolkit, and their discourse and their extrinsic motivations, because they feel that they have to change, to give a different perception, particularly to funders, that the economic importance is fundamental, and the economic factors and their impact and social and impact and in all factors, but particularly in the impact, is the most important to be addressed in their discourse. Well, concluding, this is our idea is to go from the multidimensionality of development to the multidimensionality of value assessment in culture, and to the assumption of the relativity of the impacts, and of course of the relativity of the possibilities of the measurement. Of course, this is not what most of we and most of politicians want to hear, but to assume that this is something that it can be made. It's not a general equation for everyone, but it's important for people to be aware of the different kind of dimensions that they have and the impacts that they have, and to also justify their discourse in relation to all of these. And so this tool for self-assessment of the impact of cultural activities for us is very important, essential for this notion of self-awareness of, or the importance of the things that people have, even if this should even be assumed completely different. If you are talking about trip boat with people in the middle of the river, or a literature festival, or a capital of culture, for instance, or whatever. And of course, we are with some challenges ahead of us. Of course, the possibilities of generalization, we will try at least to have some. And of course, also with the data collection, because this platform is also for us a challenge because it's a data collection mechanism that will enable us in different contexts in Europe and Portugal to be accumulating information and then to try to compare this information in different realities. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Pedro. I think you can breathe now a little bit, because you had, it's a great project, very interesting, and from this European scale and comparison, it's quite interesting for that, to have this comparative study among these self-assessed cultural activities in different cultural institutions in Europe. So thank you so much. This is quite insightful. So I will open the debate or questions, comments for 1.5 minutes. So we have one question there, then we have to go to next presentation. Alexandra.
Yeah, that's it.
That was really good, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it's quite important, and also for longitudinal studies, right? Mm-hmm. Because this tool will give data that will allow to follow a long time. So congratulations, really good. Thank you.
Thanks. And the idea is that the platform is open for people to use with registration, but after that registration, people can take out their information and they can follow their own information, their own self-assessment in the years, for instance, or using different projects of the same institution and try to use it and to compare it. Yeah. With the limitations of the comparisons of self-assessment and with different activities. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. But I will be using it because I have the in situ project. I'm involved in that. Yeah. One, it's culture and creative industries in non-urban areas. So I'll be using it. Thank you so much for the insights. And yes, thank you, Pedro, for your rich presentation. I'm sorry about the time, but we have to go a little bit fast, and we have our last presentation. We're going to have Ruba Saleh from Brussels Management School in Belgium. Ruba will be talking about innovative circular cultural tourism for post-COVID scenarios. So now. And Dr. Ruba Saleh is lecturer and researcher at how do you pronounce that? The research center? ISHEC. Okay, the ISHEC Brussels Management School. She holds a PhD in regional planning and public policies from Loft University of Architecture and master's degree in international cooperation and development from the European School of Advanced Studies in Cooperation and Development, Pavia, and she holds as well a BA in architecture from Loft University of Architecture. Her areas of expertise includes cultural heritage management, cultural entrepreneurship, contested heritage, circular economy, sustainable business models, participatory processes, and co-design. She's the coordinator of the SHIP, Cultural Entrepreneurship Professional Training Program at ISHEC. So, Ruba, we are all yours. Technical problems?
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much, Pilar, for the presentation. I would like to stand up, if you don't mind, because I haven't slept much. I'm starting to nod. So just to try to be a little bit more interactive. I'm very pleased and honored to be here today. Thank you very much for staying with us until late this evening. I will be presenting to you our Horizon 2020 research project, Bicultur. And I'll be doing this by giving a general introduction about the project and then explain what methodology we at ISHEC have developed in order to help our 6 pilot heritage sites tackle their challenges and what is the current process in developing the innovative solutions. So, you might be acquainted with Horizon projects. They usually have very long names, and Bicultur actually stands for Beyond Cultural Tourism, Heritage Innovation Networks as drivers of Europeanization towards a human-centered and circular tourism economy. Practically, we're trying to use circular economy as an entry point to cultural tourism, and we're trying to create a linkage between our 6 pilot heritage sites in terms of European history and potential networking and creation of new itineraries based on their histories. So the overarching goal is to co-create and test sustainable human-centered innovations for circular tourism. We work a lot on collaborative and innovative methodologies, and we're trying also to improve investment strategies for our pilot heritage sites. Our pilot heritage sites come from 6 European regions: Vojvodina in Serbia, Larnaca from Cyprus. We have a cross-border pilot between northeast Romania and Moldova, Vastra Jutland region in Sweden, Basilicata region in Italy, and Aragon region in Spain. And we actually launched a call, and 16 mirror ecosystems joined the project later on. As you can see, also Nancy's University, Coimbra University is part of the 16 mirror regions. We are 14 partners. We have 4 academic institutions, 2 networks, 1 small medium enterprise, 1 NGO, and 6 pilot heritage sites. So what are we exactly speaking about in this project? We are mainly speaking about circular tourism, but when we speak about circular tourism, we don't only speak about reducing wastes, as we usually speak, but we are also interested in promoting local-based knowledge, food, and excellencies. We are interested in reducing tourism pressure on overexploited territories, and we are trying to promote less known and less crowded destinations. In terms of cultural Europeanization, what I already explained, we're trying to enhance a sense of belonging and a common history. And in terms of human-centered and responsible tourism, we're trying to focus on the quality of the services provided, the human relations by the providers themselves, and how tourists are looking towards the service providers. These are actually the main principles of the project, and we tried also to incorporate smart destination management as part, as one of our fundamental principles. During our research, during the first year of the project, which kicked off in February 2021, perfectly during COVID. We were online, so we started the research activities, and we started mapping all innovations in terms of trends in cultural tourism. And we at least mapped 10 of them. starting by rural co-living, and I'm sure you're experiencing this in many of your locations, sensorial heritage experiences, contemporary meaning of heritage, specifically what Terry is doing by providing interpretation of cultural heritage through artistic creation, spiritual travel experiences, nature as heritage, industrial heritage experiences, transformative travel, remote working destinations, proximity travel, and post-cultural tourism. So totally new interpretations for unusual and exceptional tourism. So we went back to our 6 pilot heritage sites, and we asked each of them to start working on collaborative co-creation workshops with their stakeholders. First of all, they identified the ecosystem of stakeholders, and they started working with them on what are their main challenges. First of all, to identify a pilot heritage site on which they wanted to work, and then to identify the challenges, what type of heritage we're tackling, and what kind of innovation areas they're interested in developing in their territories. So it was a collective decision, not only taken by our partners, but together with the local ecosystem. And by local ecosystem, I mean civil society, academia, public and private institutions. So as you can see, there are completely different challenges. Some of the challenges are very similar, like abandonment and depopulation of rural areas, and not only rural areas, but some others are also related to accessibility, polluted industrial heritage site, concentration in one site and lack of communication, or over-exploitation and high demand. So based on the challenges and local needs, we launched an open call, which was open between 28 February and 9th of May. There was a general open call with all the guidelines, but then there were 6 specific open calls with different challenges. So every open call had, of course, an introduction about the project and the innovation areas, the objective of the call, what were the rules of the goal, who's the organizer, and the eligibility criteria. We invited people to participate in the local participatory projects in order to better understand the context and the needs. And we defined what they were going to do. So by participating to this open call, we asked people to gather in groups of minimum 4 people and provide us with a concept note about an idea on how to tackle the territorial challenges and to choose some of the innovation areas. So what happened is that each pilot heritage sites received a number of applications. They had local juries deciding on which were the most innovative, more needed projects for their territory. And then every territory selected 3 actually projects. And then these 3 projects composed of 4 people each, so 12 people came to Brussels for a hackathon. Okay, so just to let you see how many projects were developed from every area. The only area where we had 4 projects was the cultural route between East Romania and Moldova, because they were 2 countries, so they asked for 4 projects. So when they came to Brussels, we had 76 innovators working on 19 different projects, and they're really very different, tackling different needs. So on the first day, we worked with them on understanding their heritage site, what was the value chain, and how to emphasize with the key stakeholders. On the second day, we worked on building a desirable, feasible, and circular cultural tourism solution, so a lot on the business model, a lot of ideation, prototyping, and testing. And on the last day, we worked on monetization and impacts, trying to discuss positive impacts. Just to give you an idea, about the projects very quickly. Hopefully it will open. No, we cannot see it. Do I have to switch? Anyway, if you go, how much time do I have? 6 minutes. Okay, because I'm almost done. Can we switch? Because here I see it, but there I can't see it. So during the hackathon, we didn't only make them work every day from 9 to 6, poor things, but we also asked them on the last day to prepare a 1-minute video exactly. Yes, so yeah. João is showing the projects which came from every pilot heritage site. So you can see the abstract and the video, the 1-minute video that each project recorded during the hackathon. I will show you it's 1 minute, so I'll show you just one of them.
Welcome to Badge by Touch, the most unique application in Vojvodina historical and cultural region site.
Free for download, easy for use, everything by the touch. Accommodation, gastronomy, wild nature, and all of them you can find in our interactive map.
Return to medieval city of Badge. In our virtual tour, you will have a chance to return in 15th century and become a citizen of a recreated Badge fortress, speak with the different characters, and find the secret treasure of the Mongol Empire.
And if you want to see by online for your friends and family, just put #BBT on our application and everybody can see.
You wish to live through all of this in Badge? No problem. At our fortress you will find a big solar touchscreen panel with application installed on.
Free.
Easy.
Fun.
Badge.
By touch.
So this was a team from Serbia, and they are developing a platform for connecting all available tourism solutions in their territory and providing sensorial experiences. Okay. No. Okay. Voila. Okay, so we're almost there. Tuck, 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 tuck. Okay, so currently, I think this is my last slide, by the way. So currently, we started doing an acceleration program with them. On the last day, there was a jury which selected the most innovative projects, but currently we're carrying out an acceleration program with them. During the acceleration program, we would like to make sure that by the end of the project, by the end of the process, the projects are launched. It is foreseen from B-Culture a small financial contribution to some of them. It will depend on their local juries. We will have a final pitching session between the 24th of January and 28th of February, where local juries will select the best projects and they will be awarded with seed money. But we will also invite some potential investors and human capital and human resources who might also help them either mutualize or develop further their projects. I think this was the last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Huba, for your time. And I really have to thank all of our speakers for the ability of talking so fast. So thank you so much. And now we have a couple of minutes. We are still on time. We have 4 minutes for questions or comments. So we are on time. We are being very disciplined. Any comments, any questions? We still have time. Dinner will be in an hour. Anyone? No?
I was just going to say that it must be quite a challenge. Thank you, Jean. It must be quite a challenge managing such a big project
and just looking for the funding, I would be terrified. But yes, well done and good luck, and I hope everything goes well. And it is very, very interesting. Thank you so much. I will pass.
Just a very short question about this selection process, now the futures. How can this work, and who are the ones that are selecting, with involvement of the community?
Mm-hmm. At the end of the story, it's our partner pilot heritage sites who need to decide what is more relevant to their territories. So they will be deciding who are the projects to be awarded. Some of them will award the 3 of them. It's not a big amount of money. It's in total 16,000. So either they will give it to 1 or 2 or the 3 of them. It's up to the pilot heritage site to decide. Yeah.
You just told us about the good things. Tell us something. So we just, of course, you are here to transmit the good things about your project. But it's always a challenge. What doesn't go so well? With, as Alexandra was saying, with such a big mix of nationalities, is there any kind of problem? No problem at all?
Of course, there are always problems, and this is not the first European research program. We faced lots of challenges, which help us also grow and learn, and it's really very interesting process every time. I think the most challenging part of the story is to understand that we have to listen before speaking, and that there are different levels of maturity in innovation, for example. Some pilot heritage sites have enabling environments, and by enabling environments, I mean there are economic hubs, there are public authorities who are willing to invest in innovation, and some other partners are still on command and control, and they're not very much into this living space, participatory processes involving people. So from our end, we are interested in accompanying the entrepreneurs into launching their projects, into giving them perspectives on how to proceed, helping our partners delineate the process, but we can't force anyone to go nowhere. So it's just a role of enabler. Sometimes it's frustrating because I see potential in some projects, great potentials, but I also see that there's no enabling environment. But this is life, huh? So.
And Huba, thank you so much. And now we have, and also the challenge is the deliverables that you have to give to
Lot of deliverables.
That's the worst part of it. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy your nice dinner. At 7:30, I think we'll be leaving. João?
7.
7? Thank you so much. I'm part of the organization, I don't even know. So at 7? Okay, so we'll be leaving at 7. We'll have a bus at the door, am I correct? At 7. Okay, so we have 2 buses. If anyone wants to come with me by car, you can come as well. So 2 buses leaving at 7, 7:15, and enjoy your dinner. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.